Hi guys, I hope you are all set for the Christmas holidays. Now, while this year has been crazy, there has been a lot of people turning to their kitchens for comfort. So I wanted to share the top 5 most popular recipes that you guys tuned in to watch this year. We are currently hurtling towards 1 million subscribers, so if you haven't hit subscribe yet, do it now. Now, without further ado, here is this year's most popular recipe videos. Take it away. My friends, it is all about comfort food in the form of slow braised beef stew topped with cheddar dumplings. This is an incredibly easy meal to pull together, particularly when the days are a bit colder, it's darker, and you need some comfort. We're gonna brown our beef until it's nice and sizzling and golden. We're gonna get in there with carrots and onions and garlic and build the aromatics. Then the oven is gonna do the rest of the work, slowly braising the beef until it's almost falling apart. While that's happening, we're gonna make up some really easy cheddar dumplings that come together so beautifully with plenty of butter, lots of cheese, and really great aromatics in the form of parsley. This is one you're gonna wanna make all through winter. And to start off, we're gonna season up our beef with a little bit of flour and some sea salt and black pepper. Now take your time with this step. It's one that is important to a stew like this because you're gonna get a lovely crust from that flour. The seasoning's important, and it's just giving you that moment to give a little bit of love to the meat. I'm using bavette or flank steak here, something that's gonna break down low and slow while this cooks out in the oven and leaves you with super tender meat. Now that this is seasoned, I'm gonna get the pot on a nice high temperature with a little touch of oil, and we're gonna brown these in batches until we have a really rich golden color on all sides. Now, the reason I'm browning these in batches, and it is an important step, is to ensure that we get that gorgeous, rich, golden brown color on the exterior. If you put everything in and brown it all off at the same time, you're not gonna get all that great base flavor to this pot, to this stew, and to the overall finish of this dish. So take your time, do it in batches, and you'll get the best results. Just look at that. Before we even stew it down, you've got serious color and flavor on the outside of that meat. And this is why using a cheaper cut like a flank steak is gonna give you really great flavor in the long run with this dish, because it's slowly gonna braise out any of that sinew, that muscle, that fat, and leave you with really delicious results. So now that we have that cooked off, it's straight back into the pot with some onions, some carrots, and some garlic. Once the carrot and onion is in there and starting to sweat down, it's time to get in there with the garlic. Again, it's about building the aromatics in a dish like this. You've got all that great meatiness in the base, then you're adding the sweetness of the carrots and the onion, and the garlic is adding great flavor. So now it's bringing it to the next stage of this recipe. The garlic will soften down, I'm gonna add a few thyme sprigs, but really what I want to do at this point is deglaze the pan with a little touch of red wine. Now at this point, when you've added that red wine, take your time to reduce it down and intensify the flavor. I'm using a full-bodied red wine. Something like a Pinot Noir is gonna add really great flavor to a dish like this. And once it has reduced down, we're gonna get in there with our beef stock, return the beef to the pan, and slowly cook it at 160 degrees Celsius in the oven for about 2.5 hours, leaving the oven to do all the hard work for us. Now, if you don't wanna use red wine, by all means, just leave it out here and just double up on the beef stock. That's the way to go, and pretty much you'll be left with something super tender and super flavorful. So, in with the beef stock and let's get cracking. Now at this point, the stew has had about 2 hours cooking time. It's slowly blipping away in the oven and it's doing all the work by itself. But this is the perfect time to prepare the dumplings. Now these are cheddar and herb dumplings and they're super easy to make. All I'm gonna do is combine some butter and some flour and rub it through my fingertips until I have a texture of rough sand. Then it's time to get in there with some milk to bind it and plenty of flavor from some cheddar cheese and some herbs. This is a gorgeous way to finish any stew and it's one that you can come back to time and time again. Now that we have our dumplings looking ready to rock, it's time to get the meat out of the oven, pop these dumplings in on top and get them straight back in to puff up and be beautifully golden. Once you've shredded up that meat, this stew is pretty much good to go. And you could serve it at this point over mashed potato or polenta, would be delicious. But a lovely finishing touch is these herby cheddar dumplings, which I'm just gonna place in on top. We're gonna cook it covered with the lid on for about 30 minutes and then take off the lid, leave it to cook with that direct heat. And then you have a gorgeous stew that can be brought straight to the table to dive in. So, dumplings on and let's get into the oven. The beef stew has had the time in the oven and this is the moment of glory. So when you open that oven, you've taken off the lid and you get left with the most glorious beef stew topped with cheddar dumplings, bubbling, sizzling, all the good things that are happening right now, and it smells absolutely fantastic. So all I'm gonna do at this point is dive in there with a spoon, serve some up, and let's get tasting. The moment of truth. Just look at that. A steaming bowl of comfort. Beautiful, tender meat, and that really light and fluffy dumpling. Let's dive in. Wow. That is just instant comfort food. Everything about it is just super tender and warm. The moment you dive into the meat, you just get this lovely, luscious, decadent flavor.
Right, tonight it is quick fix pasta, and this is some sort of bastardization between an Aglio Olio dish, a spicy shrimp pasta. It's all coming under one roof to make a gloriously salty hit of delicious pasta. So that's what we're gonna make, and first things first, especially when you're doing pasta recipes, is always to get your water on. So I need to grab my pot, and this is where you get to see how badly organized my pasta pots are. We're gonna actually, so this is my trick to getting water to the boil really quickly. So you kind of shallow fill this pot with water, stick it on to boil, and then using the help of our kettle, we're going to bring the rest up to temperature really quickly. So fill up your kettle, and this is essentially going to get you a pot of boiling water in half the time. Right, so kettle on. Now, let's talk about the chopping that is essential to this recipe. We need a lot of garlic, so I have a whole head of garlic which we're going to use. It is going to not allow you to have a date later on in the evening, but stick with me. I only have my wife and kids, so I don't care about these things. So we're going to go with the whole head of garlic. Now I know you're probably watching this and going, there's a heck load of garlic going into this recipe, but if you like garlic, this is the recipe for you. If you don't, and I know there's a lot of Italians out there who would get very upset about what we're about to do to this pasta recipe, but this is a really great quick fix. This is a lovely weeknight dinner. This is one that a lot of people will find comfort in, especially after a long day of work, and especially that it takes less than 15 minutes to make. I would say one of the most popular genres of recipes on this channel has to be pasta recipes. For some reason, and even despite all the Italian hate, the pasta recipes tend to be our most popular. And with good reason. I think people just like gravitate towards easy to make recipes, and pasta is a quick fix supper for a lot of people. I know for me, it's the reason I make a lot of pasta, so it is a fantastically easy thing to prepare, especially when dinner time rolls around. Okay, so we're gonna use some of this garlic for the shrimp, some of the garlic for the recipe. So all you wanna do is just finely slice, as best you can, little slivers of garlic. And now we have a heck load of garlic that is ready to be added to our shrimp and added to our pasta. So I'm just gonna grab a little bowl here, and I'm gonna place out my shrimp, just drain off any of the water that's in there, which I can see is in there, so just drain any of that excess gooey, goopy, shrimpy water that nobody wants. Pop that into our bowl, and we're just gonna kind of marinate our prawns before we cook them. So I would say about half the garlic from our chopping situation is gonna go straight into our prawns. We're gonna add a little bit of olive oil and some lemon juice. And I like the idea that you're kind of pre-marinating it. You're giving it a little moment to kind of sit in the flavor before you fry it off in the pan. So give that a little drizzle. And actually, rather than squeezing in the juice, I'm gonna add the zest so that we get kind of really great flavor from the zest before we add the acid of the juice, because I don't want the juice to kind of start to cook the prawns. The acid is quite strong in this, so just the zest here. And that little hit of freshness. There's something about lemon and garlic that works so well with prawns. Boiling pot of kettle going into our simmering pot of water, which has come up to a nice simmering point. So make sure it's up at a nice high temperature. We want to salt up our pasta. So a little bit of fine sea salt going in here. And you can see we've got a nice little bubble going on this. And the pasta I'm going to use, you can use any kind of long pasta. You could use bucatini, but I'm going to use spaghetti here, which I have thought was there, but it's actually up here. So all I'm going to do is take off the top, and we're going to pop this into our pot, and preferably don't get it all over the counter like I am. I'm trying not to do. I was trying to do one of those kind of like nice big plops I normally do, but when you're doing it in a corner like this, it doesn't work as well. Grab up your tongs, and you're just going to tease that pasta into the water so that we get nice bit of action and get it cooking as soon as possible. Okay, let's give that a little bit of love in a moment. Really important when you're cooking pasta that you don't just kind of sit in the pot and leave it. At that early cooking stage, it needs a bit of movement to allow the water to kind of completely coat all sides of it. Lemon zest, garlic, olive oil. We want to add spice here. Now this is, I have a spice drawer up. I was just about to tell you how hard it is to find things in my spice drawer, but I managed to spot it straight off the bat. For a bit of spice here, I'm adding a touch of red pepper flakes, and that is pretty much it in terms of prawn action. We don't need to add too much more in here. All I'm gonna do is just give it a little mix through to make sure that the prawns are coated. And the beautiful thing about like prawns like this is they literally take minutes to cook. So 2 to 3 minutes in the pan and you are golden. These are gonna be cooked through super quick. So leave them to marinate, let them sit with that spice, with the garlic, all the things. Back to our pasta, let's give it a bit of love. And this is the moment where it can stick to the bottom of the pan, so just give it a little swirl and you're in action. Now, we're under a bit of a time crunch now because our pasta is cooking in the pot, so we want to get our prawns on, but we also want to get our Aglio e Olio situation going on. So I need 2 pans. One for the pasta, and where's the other one? One for the prawns. We said we wanted to bring a little bit more reality into the kitchen. This is what it involves. That was not the pan I was looking for. That's the pan I'm looking for. Right, we need heat on both of these pans. So come over to the hob. We're gonna place one here for our prawns, one here for our aglio olio. I can never really say aglio olio. So we got a low heat on the middle one, and because this is aglio olio style, we're gonna add a lot of oil going in here. So a generous amount. Now, in terms of ingredients, we've got the garlic, we've got the red pepper. In fact, I'm gonna bring everything over here so we can get in action. We've got the garlic, we've got the red pepper, we've got the prawns, which are marinating for all of 3 minutes. What else do I need? I was thinking, because I have this as a sort of shrimpy thing, there's lemons going on, I want to add a little bit of anchovies. Now, you don't have to add these, but they will make a difference in terms of a salty bite. So if you have these in the fridge and they've been sitting in the fridge, this is a lovely time to use them. They don't give you like that horrible salty thing that you think of when it comes to like anchovies on a pizza. Instead, they're going to melt down in that oil. Speaking of which, I need to get, rather than talking all the time, I'm going to get the garlic in. While this is cool, we don't want it to kind of burn the garlic, and we want it to slowly come up to temperature. Alongside around 2 fillets of those beautiful little anchovies. And what you're gonna get here is like I'm trying to get my fingers into a jar here of fish. Really attractive stuff on camera. These little anchovies are full of saltiness, and a lot of people get nervous about them, but they are going to melt away to nothing, and literally you'll be kind of wondering, what is that salty bite? You won't be thinking of anything fishy. So 2 of these little anchovy fillets in here. You don't even need to chop them, they're just going to melt away in the pan. I'm going to give my hands a quick wash and get the anchovy smell off it. I was trying to make them sound really attractive, but I think that the fact that I don't want anchovy smell on my fingers is really not selling them. But you know what I'm talking about. You're looking for the salty bite. So grab up your spoon. We've got our pasta cooking away. We're going to bring up the temperature on our garlic, and essentially we're looking for this to slowly infuse, the anchovies to kind of melt away, and for the garlic to kind of turn a golden brown here. Okay, we've got a lovely bit of action in here. We got the pasta cooking, we got the oil coming up to temperature. The garlic should be kind of turning sort of an opaque golden brown is kind of what we're looking for. And while that's happening, we're going to fry off the shrimp. So the heat's on at that. We're going to add our prawns straight to that hot pan. All that lovely action going on in there. Don't forget all those lovely bits in the bottom of the bowl. You want to get them in there as well. You've got even more garlic action here. So basically leave them, don't turn them, don't touch them, let them color and brown off at this point, and then we're going to flip them and get them cooked. The beauty of this moment in time is that everything's happening. So you've done a little bit of the pre-prep. You've got the prawns there, you've got the oil here, you've got the pasta happening. Finishing touches. We need some lemon juice, which I'm going to squeeze in over these prawns. I also want to grab a little fresh hit. We've got some basil happening over here. I was going to use some flat leaf parsley, but I don't have any, so we're doing some basil. This is looking good right now. Come in and have a look at these prawns because they're absolutely gorgeous right now. The moment they start to kind of look plump and they're no longer opaque, you're in a good place. So just give them a quick flip, and don't be put off by any of those brown bits in the bottom of the pan. This is where the action comes in with the lemon juice. We want to deglaze the pan. We want to deglaze the pan with a little bit of that gorgeous lemon juice, the acidity in there. Always give your lemons a good squeeze here. And I used to always do this. I used to laugh at people who would have those lemon squeezers, but since having a lemon tree, I've invested in one of these lemon squeezers because we use them a lot. So by hand, you'll break your wrist. By doing this, it means you don't get the pips and you get a nice even squeeze. So get that lemon juice in there, and hello, now we are talking. Give that a little sizzle, give that a little bit of stir. I want to get a little bit of that chili pepper into our oil for the spice factor. Give that a sizzle, and pretty much right now we're in a good place. Have a look at these prawns, Paul. Come on. Hello. This is where you want to be. Look at that sizzle. I want to give it just a little sprinkle of salt because I just know that it needs a little help along. And I think at this point now we're in a good place. So let me grab my tongs. Sometimes by the end of these, I'm absolutely wrecked. I know it's 15 minutes in the kitchen and all, but it's very tiring trying to cook quick dinners all the time. Okay, our pasta is cooked, so I want to turn off our heat there. Keep the heat on in the pan, and we're just going to transfer that hot pasta straight into that oil. Hello, my friends. Again, be mindful of how much pasta you add in here. You don't want like everything, and I'll use the rest later, but you want to kind of get in there and see all that action in the bottom of the pan. This is where you want it to be. You want it tossed and coated in all that action. Have a look over here. This is where all the magic's going on. Now, if it needs it, you can grab up a little bit of pasta water and pop that straight in. And what you're looking for is that magic moment where the pasta water and the oil sort of kind of coagulate to give you a really gorgeous finish on this pasta. And now we are in action. So prawns are off. Just look at this. This is the magic of what this dish is all about. I'm gonna add probably the half of that pan goes straight in while this is cooking off. And we're gonna leave the rest just for garnish. And come on, look at this juice. The juice, Paul, the juice. Oh my goodness. Give that a good stir. And now, have a look at this. This bubbling action here, this is what you want. You want that kind of gorgeous sauce to be created with the oil, with the starchy pasta water. Turn off the heat. We're in business. Let's serve it up. Literally, in moments, you have the most epic and beautiful pasta dish. We're gonna grab up any of those last little bits of garlic and sauce. You wanna pop as much of that over the top. Don't forget, we've all the action in the pan as well, so we wanna pop some of those beautiful shrimp in here and look at, you wanna scrape all those juices in. This is absolute magic. Oh my goodness. Sorry, I'll just stop talking because I'm very excited about this dish. To be honest, I would eat that just as it is, but a little sprig of basil in here. Now, this is the moment, if you've purchased some next level good quality olive oil, this is the time to make it shine. So this is my one that I have that I've spent a bit of money on. It smells fantastic, it's peppery, it's gorgeous, and it's golden. That little last hit of that buttery, peppery, fresh, extra virgin olive oil is gonna go a long way. The treat of actually using this. Right, it needs no more than to tuck in. Right, thank you, Paul. Oh, that was way more awkward than we'd planned. Anyway, right, let's tuck in. I put so much in my mouth. Just need a moment after all that chaos getting the dinner to the table. This is why I love pasta recipes so much, and it's the simplicity of them. You saw it's just a handful of ingredients, most of what I got from around the kitchen. It's very easy to throw together, and most of all, like, if you are not great in the kitchen, this is something you can do to really impress people. Hi guys, I want to show you today a very simplified version of a classic ramen. This is a Cheats charred chicken ramen that is all about the infusing of the chicken with mirin and soy sauce and sesame oil, and then charred on a hot griddle pan until we have deep smoky flavor. You infuse that with chili, garlic and ginger, and you have a broth that is ready for your chicken noodles and lots of gorgeous veggies. There's a few ingredients, but it is a very simple method, and the first step is marinating the chicken. So I have chicken thighs that I'm gonna add some sesame oil, some mirin, and some soy sauce to. I believe that using chicken thigh meat here, skinless and boneless, is gonna give you much more flavor than a chicken breast here. So go the extra mile and get it. And marinate it in a little bit of soy sauce, some mirin, and some sesame oil. It's gonna add great flavor. And a lot of those ingredients are just store cupboard ones that you most likely have to hand. So it's a very easy and simple marinade. Leave it overnight if you have the time, or even about 20 minutes will do the job. So while that's marinating, I have some chicken stock that's come up to temperature in my pot here. And this is just a basic chicken stock. It's a store-bought one, but what I want to do is infuse it with lots of great flavor, and that comes in the form of some ginger, some garlic, and some chili. So let's get chopping. Whenever I have the spice of chili, the aromatics of ginger and garlic, I know that it's going to infuse whatever dish I'm cooking with lots of great flavor. So this finely sliced concoction now goes straight into the pot, and it's going to infuse for 15 minutes. Now we are starting to infuse all that great flavor to just boring old chicken stock. It just elevates it completely. Now, while that is simmering away and infusing for 15 minutes and my chicken is marinating, I'm gonna prep up the veggies. I have a combination of bean sprouts and tender stem and some spring onions, but I wanna add shiitake mushrooms and carrots to the broth as it cooks out. So let's get prepping. Okay, we've got shiitake mushrooms sliced, I have my carrot ready to go, and now my time is up on my infusion of this broth. So it's had about 15 minutes. I'm gonna scoop out the chili, ginger, and garlic. It's done its work. It should have flavored it up at this point, and then we're gonna get our veggies straight in. Once the carrot and the shiitake mushrooms are in the broth, I want to cook them out for 5 minutes again to infuse all that mushroomy flavor, the sweetness of the carrots, and just give it a time to cook out. And while it's cooking out, I have a hot griddle pan that's come up to temperature, and we're going to cook off the chicken until we have deep char marks. So let's get cooking. Now, when it comes to griddling your chicken, the temptation is the minute you get into the pan to start poking at it, but really this is your moment to leave it and allow it to get those deep char marks. As it starts to cook out, it releases a little bit of moisture, a little bit of fat, and that will help you to know that it's ready to be turned. So if you tease it at the edges and it still is sticking to the pan, give it a minute more and let it cook out, and then you should be in a good place to turn it and cook it completely. Just have a look at that really gorgeous chicken that has taken on all that great flavor, the mirin, the soy sauce, and the sesame oil. But not only has it taken on the marinade, it now has that smoky element that you get from the griddle pan. That's why one of these is so worthwhile using. Chicken's almost cooked. Our broth is now looking good with all the ingredients in there. I want to drop in one more veggie. I've got some tender stem broccoli. I'm going to slice up some spring onions, and we're almost into assembly time. Now, that broccoli only needs a minute or two more, and then once it's nice and tender, it's time to serve. So we're into assembly time. I've got ramen noodles ready to rock. I've got soft boiled egg. I've got some bean sprouts, and now I just need to slice up my spring onions. There you go, a very, very simple cheats midweek ramen that's perfect for the whole family. Lots of great flavor from the smoky chicken, the beautiful broth, all the lovely veggies in there. Until then, I'm taking my little dinner off to sit at the table and chow down on this delicious smoky chicken. See you later. Hey guys, today I want to show you an absolute comfort food pasta classic. It is garlic mushrooms, it's creamy sauce, it's luscious pasta, and it all gets folded together in the pan to make one of the most indulgent comfort food dishes that is perfect for midweek and perfect when the weather starts to turn a little bit cold. To kick things off and to start building the flavor of this very simple dish, I'm going to caramelize some onions in the pan. But first things first, let's slice them up. So I'm starting the onions on a nice high heat, and I'm going to reduce the temperature and let them cook out ever so slightly and slowly. But to this, and as it's cooking out, a little bit of black pepper and a little bit of sea salt. This will help dry out the moisture, it'll help intensify the sweetness of the onions, and really what we'll get left with is something that is so flavorful when we add it to the sauce that's going around our pasta. Now, while the onions cook away, let's talk about the core ingredient to this dish, and that comes in the form of mushrooms. I've got a really lovely selection of different mushrooms here, and if you're gonna make this recipe, I do encourage you to go out there and find the best quality. Of course, you can make this with standard supermarket ones, but the textures, the colors, and the flavors that you'll get from a selection of different ones will make all the difference to a dish like this. So with most of these mushrooms, I'm not gonna slice them at all. I'm just gonna tear them into a hot pan with butter and leave them to cook out without moving them around too much, because I want them to kind of take on a little bit of crispiness and allow them to cook out so they have a bit of texture to them. So let's get tearing, let's get frying, and let's get going. It takes every little bit of you not to stir the pan, but I really encourage you not to move it, because what happens is if you leave it to sit and it cooks out, you get these gnarly sort of crispy bits on the edges of the mushrooms. And then when you finally stir it, it's almost already cooked through. So the mushrooms at this point are looking great and they're pretty much ready to go. Our onions are nice and caramelized. So now we have the core elements ready to rock. It's time to cook off our pasta and then bring this sauce together. Now, while the pasta cooks out, we need to create our sauce. We've got the onions, we've got the mushrooms, and now it's time to bring it together with some finely sliced garlic. Right, now we are cooking crispy mushrooms, beautiful caramelized onions, and all that gorgeous garlic. I'm gonna bring it together with some white wine, some cream, and a little twist of lemon juice, and then we've got a sauce that's ready to rock. Just look at that creamy, unctuous, gorgeous, mushroomy, garlicky sauce. This is where it needs to be now. And literally, once it's got to this point and it's starting to thicken up and cook out a little bit, it's time to get our cooked pasta straight in, tossed through, and I'm just gonna serve it up with some Parmesan and we're good to go. I mean, come on. This is just pure comfort food, proper indulgence. A really creamy pasta sauce, beautifully cooked pasta. And now I'm just gonna stop talking and dive in. Wow. It's so good, and all it needs is that last little crack of black pepper, and that is a dinner that is ready to rock. It's proper indulgence, it's proper comfort food. It's perfect when the weather starts to become a little bit cooler and you need something that's just that little hug in a bowl, and that does exactly what it says on the tin. Hi guys, today I want to show you my recipe for a really rich and comforting Irish farmhouse vegetable soup. Now, I did not grow up in a farmhouse, but I grew up on a really good Irish veggie soup, and this one is absolutely gorgeous. It is a combination of really simple and humble ingredients sweated together until you get really gorgeous sweet flavor, and then it's finished off with good rich veggie stock, some cream, some peas, and you're left with the most warm and comforting bowl of soup that is absolutely glorious, perfect for colder winter months like these. Now, this recipe comes together really easily, but it does take a little bit of preparation. I've got some onions, some leek, and potato. I'm gonna chop them up and we're gonna get them into a pan and fried off with a little bit of butter until they're softened and sweated down. I always feel quite happy when I know there is potato in a soup because it adds this lovely, luscious, creamy texture, and it's always a winner. So I've got potato, onion, and leek chopped. We're gonna get into our pot, a nice, heavy, deep pot like this, with some butter. And just to prevent the butter from burning, a little drop of oil. Now, as soon as that butter starts melting and fizzing and bubbling, we are good to go. So veggies in, we're gonna sweat these out for at least 5 to 6 minutes until they've softened down, and don't forget to season at this point. There is something so lovely about the smell of leeks and onion frying in butter. It just instantly reminds me of when I was growing up. These were the sorts of dishes we always had. And it's a real sense of home comfort. This is the sort of dish that is just gonna see you through winter. Now, the beauty of this recipe is that it is incredibly adaptable, so use whatever vegetables you have in the bottom of the fridge. I have some parsnip, I have some carrot, and I have some celery. I'm just gonna peel them, chop them, and get them in the pot. So now that I've got the parsnip, celery, and carrot all chopped up, it's time to get them straight in on top of the potatoes, leek, and onion. Okay, now we are cooking. We've got all our ingredients in there. It's all starting to soften down, but I want to cook out the root veg. So I have some vegetable stock, which I've just brought up to a nice simmer. We're going to pour that in and bring this all up to temperature. Right, that is our stock in. We are looking good now. So we're going to bring this up to a nice steady simmering point, and once it is up to that point, we're going to cook it out for about 10 to 12 minutes, just until the veggies are nice and tender, and you can check that by piercing them with a fork. The soup has now had a little bit of time to cook out, and my veggies should be nice and tender now, so I'm just going to pull up one or two of the carrots and pierce it with a fork. Goes in perfectly, which means we are good to blitz. So I'm going to blitz this until it's nice and smooth. Then we're going to bring it back up to temperature, add some peas, add some cream, and give it a really luscious finish. So let's get cracking. Just have a look at this. A really gorgeous, velvety, sort of sunset orange soup, packed full of really great veggies. And at this point now, it needs no more than just a seasoning. I'm gonna check that we've got the flavor right. Oh, beautiful. And actually the peas add a lovely bit of freshness and bite to the soup, so they're well worth adding. And they're a great freezer ingredient, so always worth adding. Just needs a tiny bit more salt and pepper. It's always a great point to make sure you get the seasoning right, so I'm just going to taste it. That is exactly where it needs to be. It's got all that vibrancy of the veggies in there. It's gone really creamy and luscious, and that's because you've added the potatoes in there. They add a little bit of body and that really kind of smooth, creamy finish. Now this is good to serve. It needs no more. Once you've checked the seasoning, you know you're in a good place. It's ready to rock. So into a bowl, serve it up with some brown bread. I'm just going to pop on some parsley and we're good to go. Just look at that, a proper bowl of comfort food that is ideal for these winter months. Let's dive in and try some. You know, there are some dishes that just instantly bring you back to moments in your childhood, and this is one that does exactly that. I always remember coming home from school, the windows steamed up in the colder winter months, and big bowls of this being served to the table with brown bread. It is a proper winter warmer, and it is ideal when it gets a little bit cold like it is right now. If you want the full recipe and you want to know how to make this, head over to donalskehan.com. You'll get the full recipe. I'll leave it in the box below. And of course, hit subscribe to this channel to get more delicious recipes just like this one. And leave me a comment letting me know what was your ultimate winter food growing up. And until then, I'm off to tuck into this, so I'll see you soon.